There it is. It's live. We're live. You see, you didn't think we were coming back. You thought, that's it, gone forever. We're not to return. But to your surprise and at random, here we are again. So, welcome to another episode of At Random. My name is Rick Timmis.
My name's John Wordsworth, and I'm off now.
I'm Jackson Matthews, and I'm staying. Finishing my coffee.
Fantastic. Hey, so great that you guys can join us. And for those of you that are listening in, we've got a really cool show coming up today. We've got lots of catching up to do, so there'll be lots of chat and lots of gossip. We've got the usual app reviews. We're going to be looking at some of the latest things that we've been having an opportunity to geek out on and play with, and news on the At Random timer. That's coming up a little bit later in the show, and of course we're going to go deep down into the Raspberry Pi and talk about what's been going on there and some of the cool things that you can do with that device. But first of all, without further ado, let's catch up with the guys and find out what they've been up to. So let's kick off with you, John. And how are you, mate? I haven't seen you for ages. What have you been up to?
Pretty good, thank you. Winter is indeed on the way, however, and we've hit this, I think it's probably the most depressing month in Stockholm, where November has come around, it gets dark at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not quite dark on the way to work yet, but that'll be coming. And it's like cold and wet, but not snowy, not like magical cold, where you've got the, look at the cool Christmas snow or anything.
Magical cold,
well, it was really nice last year when it came around to like January and the snow, the coating of snow everywhere, and it kind of lightens the place up. So it's just got a little bit grey, and I think next few weeks it's going to just get a bit colder and darker, probably a bit wetter before it starts to snow. But I'm looking forward to the snow. So, but I'm doing great.
Doesn't seem to be spirits up then.
Oh yeah, well, I've kept the spirits down. More importantly. The bottle of whiskey in the kitchen is certainly helping. But perhaps the one cool thing that's happened is I have got a new microphone, so I hope that my dulcet tones are even nicer this week.
Oh, I thought you sounded a bit different, John. I was thinking, yeah, it's like sitting in the same room as you.
It's because before I had like if you're just starting podcasting, you'll probably want to get the snowball mic. And the second one was like, if you're serious about podcasting, this is you're not spending hundreds of pounds on a mic that's very, very good. So I got the Blue Yeti microphone, which came highly recommended from a number of sources. And so far it seems pretty good. It's one of those strange purchases where you guys hopefully hear the benefits, and I guess I will when we listen back to the recording.
Well, there's a worrying trend here, though, isn't there? Go on, Jack, you go first.
I was just saying, he's taking his time with his words. He's enunciating very carefully. He wants to get like the full range from this thing.
That's the mic. That's the blue radiation that's coming off it. That's kind of like slowing everything into a clearly defined and well-spoken auditory experience.
Oh, all about the auditory experiences. But I mean, it's a really good mic so far. And the one thing I will say is, you see the picture on the website, and it looks a reasonable size, and you purchase it, and as you can see, it's bloody massive.
Jesus.
Oh, boy.
Guy looks positively retro, doesn't it?
It is pretty. It does look like it belongs in Fallout 4.
Yeah, I was
just like a terminal somewhere, some rusty old mic, the one that survived the nuclear war. It does look like it.
Reassuring weight.
But it's got quite a few little knobs and buttons on it, which is nice, One at the back, I don't know what it does. One above it, gain, fancy word for volume. And then I can mute it on the front, which is kind of useful. It means I can just, if I need to cough or scratch or something that's going to make a bit of a sound, I can make myself silent. So yeah, it seems pretty cool so far. And from playing with it, it does sound a lot better. So if you're a podcaster and you're just starting out and you're thinking, this little headset, I could do better than that, you can, and it's the Blue Yeti. It's awesome.
Never mind your mic, I just realised your printer is the same as mine. That printer back on your left. Yes, that is. I've been looking back and forth, and that is the printer I've got down by the telly there.
Little HP guy with a scanner on top.
Yeah, that's it, with a scanner on the top, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was pretty good. It was pretty cheap. I mean,
You're not so far away, are you, John?
well, you know, that's what global technology does for you. You know.
Exactly.
So the worrying sign here, of course, is that you said, for people, you said that for people that are becoming serious podcasters, get a Blue Yeti. Does that mean we've got to be serious?
Well, you know, I'm gonna stop the laughs right here tonight, I'm afraid.
No more mucking around. Come on, everybody.
Blue Yeti in, jokes are out. Sorry guys.
I'm casual till I die.
Okay, all right.
So, very old headset, yeah.
But how about you, Jackson? How's everything been going with you?
Oh, just more of the same, more baby stuff. I've actually managed to put her to bed myself. Like, get her to sleep, put her to bed a good few times at night. What I do is, if she looks like she's not going down, then I get a little one, sit her on my lap, and then we put on the classic Doctor Who, black and white Doctor Who, and like that knocks her right out. It's like she watches it just enough because there's stuff going on, people are talking, so she'll watch it. But like, all the lights are low and it's just black and white stuff, and it's dull as dishwater for a baby. So eventually she'll just start getting sick of it, and then she'll just pass out in my arms. It's perfect. Then I get to watch some telly. So.
Watch some telly? You mean play Binding of Isaac? That's what you mean.
I can't do that until if she sees me playing Binding of Isaac, then she starts jumping up on my lap. Not properly. If I say, okay, you can sit up on my lap. And I'll even give her a pad sometimes, so she can pretend. But all she really wants to do is like do flips and kangaroo jumps until I stop playing the game. She does not want me playing the game. It's just like, no, Daddy, look at me, watch what I'm doing. Fine. Not to say I haven't got some brilliant runs while she was in the room with me. I've done very well. I've managed to split my focus. Like, my eyes are going in two different directions. But that's the limit of my accomplishments.
Oh, magic. Well, it sounds like good fun, for sure. And it sounds like... and, of course, as they grow up and develop, the experience changes all the time because they're changing so quickly as they grow, aren't they?
You should be able to be a co-op partner for me soon. I'll turn on that second pad and she can help me out.
Oh, fantastic. Good stuff, good stuff.
And how about you, Rick? How have you been doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. So, well, I got myself. I brought a beer this evening. You see here, look, a nice bottle of Newcastle Brown Ale. And what you have to do with this is, as you can see, what you have to do, you've got to talk to this nicely, and then you'll be away. So if you watch this, watch carefully, right? So I'm just gonna put my finger here on the top like this, right? So
I've seen you try these tricks before, Rick.
Oh, no. So basically, if you just try to open it like this, it won't open. But if you do this, you see. Why, aye, man, canny bottle of Newcastle Brown, like, I've got a reek juice, son, pop the top off then. Ready to go. There you go, look at that. So well, I've been doing that, and what else has been going on? Well, there's been tons of activity in the Kubuntu camp, the Kubuntu Linux distribution camp, that's been keeping me quite busy, actually. I've been getting quite active in there. As soon as Wily Werewolves was released, so as soon as 1510 was released, which was just a few weeks ago, Jonathan Riddell stepped down as the release manager, and that kind of threw the community into a bit of a furore. So there's been lots of shuffling and rejiggling around and so on and so forth, lots of activity. But it's been quite positive, actually. So there's been a load of new stuff gone up on the website, and a load of other new work gone on, and the latest version of Kubuntu 15.10 is looking really, really good. So those of you who are watching and listening, please whiz off to kubuntu.org and go and download and have a go with it and see what we've been doing. That's been really cool. I have managed, for my sins, to get myself a shared position maintaining the Muon package manager for Kubuntu, which, as it says by my little thing under here, cute, mostly harmless, which is quite right. I mean, I'll talk about Elite in a moment, actually, because I want to get some tips from you, John, on that. Yeah, so Muon's a cutie a Qt application, and it basically does package management, and it allows developers and people like that to sift through all the different libraries that are available from the Kubuntu package set, and you can select them individually and install them and things like this. So that's quite cool. And I'm working with a chap called Keith in Canada on that. So that's kept me really busy. And then when I've not been doing that, I've been going to work and doing all the other usual things that you normally do. And of course, doing the Kubuntu podcast and running around in circles, as I normally do. And not finished yet, I've also begun having another hack at the @random timer.
I was pretty scared there. I thought you were going to have bought another piece of technology that then I would have to covet.
That's what I thought he was going to say. I thought he was going to say, and I've been saving this thing for last, and I've like bought this thing.
It's like,
then he bonked it up on the table.
I know you're not a hardcore gamer, John, but if you were, you would have 9 monitors like I do.
Well, do you know about the 3 screens?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Cool. All right. So we have
and sides, yeah.
That's fine. So yeah. So been lots of activity going on, which is great for me at this time of year, because throughout the summer, from as soon as we get into about May. Yeah, April, May time, all the way through the summer, with the family. You'll know yourself, Jack. You're just running around after the family, taking them here, there, and everywhere. But as soon as it starts to rain and the snow kicks in a bit and it gets dark, cloudy nights, nobody wants to do anything. So they just leave me to go off into my shed and play with things, which is, well, great. Now, on your shelf behind you, next to that printer, John, you've got one of those Thrustmaster HOTOS things.
Certainly do.
It is. I got one of those because I got a copy of Elite, and I got one of those. Can you tell me how to make the forward-backwards throttle work properly?
You know, I haven't played it for a while, but and I'm sure I said this last time, but I really should do this. I spent the first hour of playing it getting a pretty decent configuration put together, and I should send it to you because it's much better once you figure out just a few issues with the buttons on that flight stick. I guess the defaults are not really meant for this stick, but I didn't find the throttle to be an issue.
Right, okay, so it was really weird. It's like I could get the throttle to go forward, but I couldn't seem to get it to a stop point, and I couldn't seem to get it to go backwards. It was just like not behaving itself at all. And I ended up having to program a button so that I could press the button to toggle the engine to reverse, so that and it just became more or less unflyable.
That's kind of weird, because on my one it's just kind of an absolute. So if I push it forward, I go at full speed, and then if it's in the middle, I stop, and if it's going backwards, I go backwards. So.
All right, okay. Maybe it's because I tried to get it set to analog or something, or I don't know. Oh well, maybe you send me your setup and I can have a play around with it and this and the other. So, but I love the game. It's absolutely fantastic. I've been blown up all over the place. It's great. And if you like getting killed, then you know it's superb.
Have you tried it with the Oculus Rift yet? That is the real question.
No, I haven't tried it with the Oculus Rift yet. I kind of like, I figured I needed to get that stick working first.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're kind of floating in space without a rudder.
But I get this funny feeling that it might be rather cool, actually, with the Oculus.
I'm almost certain it will be.
Have you had a chance to try it with the Oculus, John?
No, I'm holding off to get my VR headset until next year because, I mean, now we're pretty close to release. So I figure I might as well just wait and get a full release. You know,
I am inclined to agree with you. They work out all the kinks. You get like the proper version. You the one that's they've tested it on everybody that have worked out all the bugs, and then people will start talking about it as it will really stand, as opposed to like, oh, it's just a dev kit. Don't put too much investment in it because everything can change. But now you'll know then exactly how it's going to fall. Yeah, wait for the proper thing. I know that goes against every fibre of your being.
It does, and for nearly everything else, I would just buy it. But this is the one thing I think where I'm like, if I bought the pre-release version, I would have spent £300 on something that I don't really have a use for. You know, like everything else that I buy, pre-release, etc., I can at least justify it in some way.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I got a new Apple TV because, it runs all the apps I've already bought on my iPad, and it's better than my current one, and one day I might write apps for it. These are all
Yep.
things that I might do. I'm not in the position to produce a VR game sitting in my bedroom. That's a much bigger task than a bedroom project.
Yeah.
And beyond that, there are only a couple of games to play. But if you really like those games, I think it is worth getting early. Like, if you like your racing games or your flight sim games and there's one you really love, I think it's worth it. But for me, I kind of play racing games on the side, mostly on my console. And until Elite Dangerous came out, there were no other games that I was like, that's what I want to play. Now there's only one, and I'm not paying £300 for one game.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to justify that. Yeah.
But I will when the release one comes out, because I know that will be followed by more games. So
I really hope so. I really hope it takes off. Yeah, because I'm pretty psyched about it.
Yeah, I think I think that's really a sound position, actually, John, to do that. And I think the only thing for me that the Oculus really needed is just that higher resolution. To really give it that for the tiny detail further in the distance of things. That for iRacing, it needs that. For Elite, my sense of that is that I think it will work really, really well for that, because the distance is just a black void with the stars in it. In the main. And it's the near field vision that is more important. So it'll probably be awesome on that. But there we go. All right, so we try to keep the show fairly tight and not let it wander into the 2-hour slot, which is what we normally do. So let's dive off into app review and see who's been playing with what. So, John, what you got for us?
So I've got a really small app, and on paper, it's not the sort of thing you think, really, you don't need that nowadays. But I found myself, between work and my phone and all these different platforms, just sometimes you find a URL and you want to read it later. You find a link to a blog or just something, you're like, I want to read that later. And you can add it to your Safari reading list, but then I get home to my Windows PC where I've got Chrome, or sometimes I pick up my iPad and the bookmark list kind of grows with not that much sorting. So I found an application called Pocket, and it's as simple as a little widget which I've got on my desktop. So next to the URL bar, there's just a little button you push to kind of pocket an app, URL or website for later, and then you can load up Pocket in wherever you are and just read through these articles you've kind of collected up over the course of a week or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't do much more than that really, but it's just kind of simple. You can pay for it if you want to. You don't have to pay for it just to collect up links. If for some reason you think, this is a really cool app, you can pay, I think it's $3 or $4 a month, and then you can read it all offline. So I guess if you're the sort of person who flies a lot maybe, or travels somewhere without internet, you can just load up all these websites onto your tablet, and all the pages that you've got linked will just be downloaded, so you can just read them on the go.
But that's an unusual use case scenario. I mean, like, most people are just going to use it, so save links. And I take it, like, when you say view it offline, are you talking about like the material that it links to?
Yeah, precisely. So I mean, obviously you can look at the list of links offline.
Yeah.
Which isn't much fun, but but then you can just tap on it and it just goes straight to the site in the browser. It's got a few little things, like, I mean, if it tries to produce it like it tries to render it like a page in a book, I guess. So if it's a fairly simple page, it will do things like strip the background and then just white background, black text. So it makes it a bit easier to read while you're on your phone or something.
Oh yeah, like a reader mode, yeah.
Yeah, precisely, and you can kind of change the font size and make the background sepia if you want, like a page in a book. But I mean, for me, it's just nice to have. You're at work or something, you go, that's a cool link. I kind of want to read it, but if I add it to my bookmarks, it would just get swallowed up in the list of 50 bookmarks I've got, which are just completely unsorted. So instead, I'll add it to Pocket and give it a tag, like computing or something. And then at least when I'm sitting at home, I can sort of flick through them and have a read. But yeah, it's simple. It doesn't do that much. It's probably write it in a weekend.
It does sound really useful, though. When I'm at work during the day, I come across things like this. It might be something somebody posts a link on Google Plus or something like that, and of course that'll be personal stuff. And I feel very uncomfortable about looking at any kind of personal stuff or reading things that aren't work related when I'm in the work setting. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It just makes me feel I don't like to do that. So I've actually been collecting links and chucking them into my Google Plus in a little collection that I've got there, where I've more or less done what Pocket does. I've created a little collection called Interesting Links, and I just kind of ping them in there, and then I can go back and look later. But that sounds really cool. Is it a button that loads into the browser? Like, is it a little button that goes in Firefox or something like that, John?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got the plugin for Safari, and I'm sure I've got one on Chrome as well. And you can just download it, and then it just sits next to your URL bar, so it's like a little picture of that down-facing arrow, like a Pocket, I guess, on a pair of jeans or something. And you just click it, and then you pick up your phone later and go, oh yeah, that was the link. And quite often on the train or something, on the commute home, I'll just have a quick read of the things that are collected in the day.
All right, I'm going to try that out actually and have a play around with that. And I take it that you obviously sign up like with you obviously register for a Pocket account. So like for me, like at work, all of my Google Chrome and everything else at work is all logged to my Wi-Fi Spark account. And obviously, what I'd want to do is to be able to fire things that I might come across during the day in that setting to my home account. So I could set my Pocket button up to my home account.
Yeah, I'm almost certain you can do that. I mean, at work, I'm using a Mac, but I have my Pocket set up to my Gmail account. No, I sign in with my Gmail account, but it goes straight to my home Gmail account. So I'm almost certain you can. I think you can just set it up to whatever account you want. It doesn't have to be the same one you've got hooked into Chrome or anything. So.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I've got a little bit of news in App World. As you know, me and the rest of the Timmis family have been battering away with these Ubuntu phones that we got. We got 4 of these Ubuntu phones, and do you know they have been really good, and we are really, really pleased with them overall. I think we are probably 5 months in now. 4, 5, maybe even 6 months in of moving everything away from iPhone and Android and all the rest of it and going over to Ubuntu phone, and it's been working really, really well for us. But we've noticed recently that with some of the recent updates, there's been quite a lot of changes, and that's introduced a few bugs and bits and pieces. And so we've been kind of hankering and waiting for lots of updates to come through that make things better. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is an app that we visited in the past, but I've become just really, really passionate.
All right, John. Looks like it's up to you and me.
I think I was. There's like a few seconds where you kind of go, is it just me? Is it me that's dropped out, or is it?
Nope. No, I look at your face, and your face is like still, but it's still moving. So I can still see Rick's face moving. He's still alive.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
So yes, you cut out for a few seconds there. So
we got nervous.
Oh right, okay. Oh no, let's not have. Oh gosh, steam-powered internet in the UK. It's dreadful.
It made me laugh when you said your little message. You said you can read my little message, and I thought, Rick, I can't read it. The bandwidth's not letting the image come through.
Oh boy, I don't know. Oh well, hopefully that problem is resolved, whatever it was, and it's not going to happen again. So I was talking about Telegram basically in a nutshell, and so I've got really into this app. It's absolutely great. I'm doing lots of communication with different groups like the Kubuntu guys and the development team with that. Obviously, you guys, the AtRandom show, it's a really good tool for the 3 of us to chat together, and the family as well. All 4 members of the Timmis family are doing that, and they've just released a new update for it, which has got a really nice QML, Qt QML based interface. Let's see if I can hold that up. Oh, it's all too bright. You
It's
can't.
a lovely white square.
You can't see anything. That's a shame. I don't. No, I can't. Oh, unfortunately, I can't do anything. So I'll have to tell you about it anyway. Anyway, the long and short of it is a whole bunch of updates. They're now up to version 2.0.4, and this is a native app that's that runs on the Ubuntu phone. So it works really well. It's been super reliable, I have to say. And it's just absolutely fantastic. And having it on my desktop at home, on my laptop, on my phone, on my work PC, so wherever I go, whatever device I'm sitting in front of, Telegram is always there, so people can post messages to me, and it's become a really good way for just a close circle of people that only I want to communicate with me to be able to communicate with me, rather than email where all and sundry can spam you to death. So yeah, so that's Telegram 2.0.4 on the Ubuntu phone, and the Ubuntu phone is fantastic value. You know, 130 pounds or 150 pounds for the 5-inch one. You can get them from BQ.com. Not locked to any network. Bloody brilliant. There you go.
That is a summary. Bloody brilliant. So what about you, Jack? What app or software did you bring this week?
Well, what I've got is, a while ago, I don't suppose anybody out there remembers, so I can freely talk about it again, was I talked about, you guys remember the game Conflict Free Space, yeah?
Yeah, I do.
Yes.
And it reminded me because you guys were talking about your Elite Dangerous, but for people who don't know about it, it was basically a space simulator that was centered around you basically fly in missions, and it would be like telling a story that would be told through the missions you were doing about an invading alien force and like a first contact and we must hold the line or they'll destroy us, all that kind of thing. This would be played out in a series of missions, all very like flight simulator kind of stuff. And they made a very successful sequel, which was fantastic, like upped the game. And but since then, I'll try and condense this bit because it's not actually the focus of what I was going to talk about. They basically recreated the engine for it, the source code project on a fan site called hardlight.net, and that let them basically recreate the game using all the original assets, but now they could all the rendering and everything was done from the ground up, so it looked about 1,000,000 times better, and there was so many more features they could incorporate it, and they've kind of taken it onto themselves since then. Now a good few years ago, there was a fan-made sequel was released, a mod called Blue Planet for it, and this one was supposed to be a sequel to the original, to the official Free Space 2, and this was considered the gold standard because it had very high quality models, a very involving storyline that you could mistake for a professional product, and it even had voice acting, which is always the last thing to go on in these fan-made projects. It was never quite finished. They split it into several acts. And the part one was the Age of Aquarius, and that was finished. Played it through, loved it. And the second one was War in Heaven, but that one was never voice acted. Recently, they finally got around. He's put a lot of his own money into it. I think he's the gentleman who primarily came up with it is I think he's a sci-fi author, and he sunk a lot of money into it, got all the voice acting done, and they basically redid tons of the assets for the not only for the first and second parts and voice acting for the whole thing, but they also went and recreated the original campaign with a lot of improvements, changes. I mean, graphically this thing looks so a lot better than the original game did, because they had lower quality models at the time, and since then people can just drop in very high quality versions over the old ones as and when they come. So, and that's basically just been re-released. It's a ton of content, and it's obviously you'll get more out of it if you played the original, because they include the original Free Space 2 campaign with it. Then if you're interested in picking it up, it takes a little bit of setting up, I won't lie, but if you're into this kind of thing, you're not scared by that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody comes expecting like an in-depth space flight simulator is not going to be put off by extract this there, extract there. They say they've got an automatic installer, but I never tried that because I don't believe those things work for a second.
That's pretty cool. It was really awesome that the guys like who made Free Space 2 released the source code. That was pretty cool.
Yes, yeah, it's certainly like set so much free since everything that's come afterwards. All of this, everything on this site, I don't think would have happened.
No,
I think Free Space would have just been remembered as like, oh, wasn't that a cool game? Why didn't they do any more of that? I mean, even now, there's been no official sequel since. Outside of fan stuff, which has kept it alive, I've not seen anything else from it. Nothing at all.
It's a shame. I would go crazy for an official. Well, I say official, you know, full
It's downright
AAA.
puzzling.
I guess the world has gone open world now. People want to explore, but not to have. You miss out on that awesome story, you know, like.
Even then, I don't see many open world. I mean, true open world contenders. I mean, you've got Grand Theft Auto, you've got Skyrim and Fallout, and Skyrim and Fallout are like done by like the same company.
But I mean, in terms of space games, they're all gone like Elite Dangerous.
Oh,
whereas,
yeah.
You know, like there's 4 million star systems to explore. That's pretty cool. But
so even
sometimes
Online set down a model, didn't they? And everybody saw, oh right, that's the way we do it then. Because
but sometimes you want a story, you know. Like you want to actually have a plot where you meet bad guys and things, not just some randomly generated pirates.
Yeah.
Which is fun too. But, you know, I just want a story. I want like sit down, 20 hours. I finished it. Cool. That was awesome.
Yeah. It's very the missions are very skillfully constructed theatre is the best way I can think of it. Where you're very directly involved, but all the skill in the missions is like drawing your attention to certain places at certain times, and then having like certain dramatic cues. And when you look at it, it's kind of linear, but it doesn't feel linear when you're in the film.
Yeah. The magic happens, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So So the re-release of Blue Planet, they've gone to great lengths to try and make it to simplify it as much as possible, but. If you're all interested in this kind of thing, I'd recommend it very much. Based on what I've played so far, I mean, I've only played Age of Aquarius so far. I've not played A War in Heaven. I was waiting all this time for the voice acting.
Do you? I mean, I'm very encouraged by this because there are builds from OS X, Linux, and Windows, and I've just clicked on the links that we've got in the show notes there and gone through, and there's a nice tarball here to download to install. FSO standard, it seems.
Yep.
How old is the game package, Jack? And do you any idea what kind of system requirements it needs?
It depends on how fancy you want to get with it. You have a lot of options in terms of customization, because I mean it will run if you turn off a lot of the bells and whistles. Don't install the high quality models. It'll run on like. I mean, what were we playing it on at the time, John?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking. We played it 15 years ago.
Yeah. And
99, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. A machine from that time would be fine, but you've got a lot of leeway. If you've got like a fancier computer, and you think, oh right, what can I get out of this? Then there's like people have made HD versions of a lot of the cutscenes. Like I say, they've replaced all the ship models. There's rendering. It's even just options. It's not even a question of what you download. I mean, you can like turn off a lot of lighting options and things like that. You've got a lot of scope as to like get it right down to pre-millennium levels if you're struggling. But I doubt many people going for it are going to be. It would be a shame with Blue Planet in particular, though, because Blue Planet makes use of a lot of quite nice ship models and fancy-looking skyboxes and stuff like that. So I get a feeling you would be missing out if you had like a really low-end computer, but I think you really have to be struggling. I don't think it's anything you can get down by like unchecking a few boxes and lowering a resolution or two.
I think it's incredibly unlikely that you'll be unable to play it.
Yeah, it's not super demanding. I mean, most of it is empty space after all.
All right, okay. I might have to play around with that on the laptop then and just... I
assume, though, that to play it, you're expected to own the real game? Or is that not the case anymore?
With the with the mod, I'm trying to remember how many of the original assets it uses. To play it safe, I would say yes. You're probably expected to own a copy of the original game. Yeah, but I know the original game is available on Good Old Games.
Yeah, I bought it on GOG when it appeared there.
Yeah, there's a Steam version as well, but I wouldn't trust the Steam version. Not if you're going to be going crazy with the mods. I don't know what DRM does to it, and I know Good Old Games doesn't bother with all of that.
Cool. Right. So that's Conflict Free Space 2, the new re-release of the remake of the open source extension of the add-on extra awesome +++ version. What was it called again, Jack?
Blue Planet. And
Blue Planet.
Don't forget, and no kidding, it is the sequel to the first one as well, and it's a director's cut. I'm not even making that up.
But that sounds pretty awesome, and I think I'll be checking that bad boy out after the show. So.
Oh, fantastic. Cool. Alrighty then. So, well, it's time to get into the main event. A bit of deep thought and catch up with our main topic, which tonight is the Raspberry Pi. Ooh. So, hands up who's got a Raspberry Pi?
Me, I do.
I've got one, but it's not mine. Technically, I use it a hell of a lot, but it's not mine. But it's there. I'm looking at it.
You stole it.
Yeah,
I see what you did.
I kind of did.
Awesome.
But, yeah, I've got a version B. I've got the original model B, which has got 512 megs of RAM, but
that's
not the Raspberry Pi 2, which I'm kind of tempted to get my hands on because it is definitely an upgrade.
Well, I use mine for the like I say, for like the Kodi, for the video player, and like when that gentleman messaged the show and said how much better it ran on his 2, I started thinking about getting a 2 myself.
I just think the extra horsepower means you'll spend a lot less time waiting.
Yeah, just gets you over the top. Everything's a little less sticky.
And they're so cheap. I mean, it's not a question of can you afford it really. I mean, anyone should.
Can you afford not to?
Yeah,
precisely, Jackson.
What does a 2 cost now at the minute, anyway?
I think it's $35. So what, 25 quid?
Oh Christ!
Yeah.
God,
they're cheap. They're really cheap. So I've got bucket loads of me. This one in this case here, this Pibo case one. I think this one's Raspberry Pi Model A, I think, which is the one that's got 256 megs of RAM on it, and it's all right. It's pretty cool. This one's a B, which is all tricked out with a breadboard and some other bits and pieces, so you can kind of plug stuff into it and make some gadgets of it. And I've got a box full of components and LEDs and little buttons and stuff like this you can plug into it, including I've got 2 Raspberry Ladder kits, which are these little games that come on a circuit board made by Drogon. Drogon. The little kit, which is...
Sorry, Rick. You're starting to sound like a speaking spell.
Rick's Raspberry Pi is running out of battery.
I think his Raspberry Pi is doing it for him.
That'll be the Newcastle Brown Ale that's doing that.
I thought you were doing this whole podcast using a Raspberry Pi. You're going to reveal that at the end, and there's this Raspberry Pi coming out of it.
There were plans for that, but it failed. Maybe I should just talk about that very briefly. What I intended to do was to load up a Raspberry Pi with and jack, so the jack audio controller. Be able to get this board with some buttons on it and be able to plug my microphone into it, then press the buttons and be able to do like sound bites. So play our jingle and mix the 2 together. Yeah, that didn't work.
As with so many electronics home projects, that is a definitely possible outcome, isn't it?
Oh, no way could I get that. I get that working? By the time I eventually even managed to hack it to the point where Jack would pick up the microphone, the latency on it was just, being able to mix two streams together was never going to happen. And so I mean, I suspect it's totally doable with a Pi 2, and I think that Raspbian Jessie, the version that I was using, is really designed for using the Pi 2, which has got 4 cores instead of 1 and a gig of RAM and so on and so forth, and you'd probably have a bit more success with it. But I haven't got a Pi 2, unfortunately, so yeah, denied, failed.
We have
in
to
my
finish that soon,
experience,
I think. I need to get a Pi 2. But...
I thought that many times though. I thought to myself, when like X comes out, it's going to fix all of this, and then all this stuff I'm having now will be easy. And then it happened, and then it actually does come out, and I'm like, no. I've been disappointed many a time. But
the intent is there to buy one, but because you can't just, I think because like you can't just rock up to a shop, especially like I haven't seen them here in Sweden. I can't just pick one up. That's the sort of thing I would if I was in the UK. One weekend I'd be really bored, not bored of all sorts of stuff to do, but I'd be like, I want to do something different. I'll trot down to Maplin. Sponsorship opportunity if you'd like to take it.
Yeah,
we'll have a Pi 2, Maplin, and we'll test it out for you on the show.
But pop down to Maplin and just pick one up, and that's something that price. You don't need to consider the purchase too long. So you're like, yeah, I want to play with a Pi 2. But the problem here is I'm like, I want to play with a Pi 2, and I'm like, I need to order it and wait a week. Well, I'll do it next time then. You never get around to it, because it's not that important a thing to do, but I will, I'm sure, because I mean there's a lot of cool things I can do with it, and when we start talking about some of the projects later on, there's some reasons why I want to buy them, so we'll talk about those a bit later.
Well, let's dive into those projects anyway, because the world's sick of listening to me. So yeah, well, up on the notes we've got a couple of things here, which is RetroPie and Picade. Now I know quite a bit about Picade, but I don't know too much about RetroPie. Either of you guys know anything about that one?
I've got a vague feeling that we tried to get it working one time, didn't we, John?
We did. We spent, well, I'm not going to say a weekend. Over the course of the weekend, we spent time on and off setting up RetroPie on my Raspberry Pi at home. It was not the smoothest of experiences then, but then the Raspberry Pi was a pretty new device. But the end result was pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It just had this little Raspberry Pi which we'd loaded up a bunch of emulators and a bunch of ROMs onto the device. You plug it into your TV, plug in a game controller, kick back, wait 30 seconds for it to boot up or whatever, and then we could go through and play. I remember there were issues like that all the emulators worked and things.
That was it, yeah. That was the main stumbling block, as I remember, was like finding like the right emulator that works the way you want it to is a lot easier on Windows. Everybody makes it for that. But for the Raspberry Pi, there was only it was usually only like one emulator per system, wasn't there? Like there was the one that everybody used, and if that didn't work, then you were out of luck, kind of thing.
But I'm under the impression that in the last year or two, it's actually got a lot better. So
yeah,
I think it would be a pretty cool project to pick up again and try again, because there are times when you just want to play a good old emulated game on the TV, and it's very different to playing it on your PC. Like PC stationary desk, you don't really have a controller plugged in. Whereas if I could just kick back in front of the TV and play it, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, I find myself wondering how it compares to like arcade hardware. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean I guess everything but like the really recent stuff like the Neo Geo and things. I mean it smashes the hardware on things like the SNES and the N64 even, I guess. I mean at least the Pi 2. I'm not sure about the original Pi. I think that would probably have struggled with some N64 games.
What about the Neo Geo though? I reckon it could give the Neo Geo a beating.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, if we picked up a Raspberry Pi 2 now, I suspect that everything on its list, it would be able to play pretty well. Maybe the PS1 might struggle for a few things, where the emulation isn't great on some tougher games. Yeah. But I think for the most part, I mean, just a few of the systems on the list that it promises to emulate, ranges from like all the kind of usual Game Boy, Sega Master System, Game Gear, NES, SNES, right up to the N64. But also like the Sega Mega CD and the PlayStation 1, and a couple of weird things like the Apple II. Amiga and Atari ST are on the list.
Did you say Mega CD works?
The Mega CD is on the list as well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you can finally play Night Trap in your living room again.
So I think it's not a silly ambitious list. I mean, there's nothing on there like the Dreamcast or anything crazy, which obviously the Raspberry Pi would seriously struggle with. So
everything seems to struggle with Dreamcast emulation.
True. So I think it's like it's a very good list. It's not silly ambitious. It's realistic. It's got MAME on there as well, which is obviously a big list of arcade games.
Sure.
But if you like the retro experience, if you want to get a few beers with some of your mates and just play like the games you used to play when you were growing up, I think you would do a lot worse than picking up a Raspberry Pi. I'd probably put a few hours aside still to set up RetroPie, based on our previous experiences. Don't just do it 20 minutes before they come round. Maybe the night before, have a play. But it might be a lot better now. But once it was going, it was a really good little box of playing games on. And the cool thing about the Pi is that you can obviously you can have different systems on different SD cards. So it's not like if you you're not dedicating your Raspberry Pi to a certain purpose. If you install RetroPie, you can just install that on one SD card, and then when you want to use your Pi for something else, you can just unplug the SD card, plug a new one in, reboot, and off you go.
That's nice. So, yeah.
Have a card with a bunch of games on, running RetroPie, a lot of fun, but you can still use your Pi as a media machine if you want to have a different card sitting next to it. So.
Without having to install some complicated several things on like one operating system sort of thing.
Precisely. I mean, you can just pop the card out and pop in your XMBC or whatever it's called now, or the new kids are calling it.
calling it Cody.
Cody. But yeah, I think RetroPie is on the list of things of what I would like to do with a Pi 2.
The things I'd like to do with a Pi 2. starring Jason Biggs.
Well, I've been looking at, and I almost bought one of these on Pi-Moroni. I'll talk a little bit more about my exploits a little while ago with Pi-Moroni for a particular short cycle sprint we ran at work, which was great fun. More about that just in a little while. But whilst I was at Pi-Moroni, I saw this thing called the Pi-Cade, and I was so impressed with this. Jack, I think you'd be proud of me with this, Jackson. I was within just a few moments of splashing out the old credit card and buying one of these kits, which is it's a little a Raspberry Pi and a little screen and all the plastic stuff to make a miniature arcade machine with the little joystick and 4 buttons on it, and obviously an emulator with loads of stuff, and absolutely awesome. And they're about £100 or something like that for the whole kit. Astonishing.
Wow. So how big is this? How big is the cabinet? Are we talking like a bar top looking thing?
Yeah, it is bar top. It's kind of like I haven't got a ruler here, but it's probably about 270 millimeters tall, something like that. So it's fairly small, sort of tabletop kind of thing. But it looks like a miniature arcade machine from the 80s. The old arcade machines that you'd play Gauntlet or Space Invaders on, or Defender, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And I guess I guess you could theme up your cabinet as well, which is pretty cool,
Yeah, that's it.
You could stick some stickers on it for your favourite game, and
I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it with this thing unless you were like really going for it. But like some of the stuff I've seen with like people's full-size cabinets, how like when you have the cabinet and up at the top it's got the marquee with like the name of like Super Sprint or whatever, like up on the top. People have like taken that bit but replaced it with like a super wide, a really super wide monitor, but a smallish one. So and then when a different game comes in, it beams a different marquee image to that. So the marquee actually, the cabinet actually changes depending on what game is in there.
That is pretty awesome.
I've looked at some of the prices of these monitors though, and I could never find one that I liked. They always looked too big. They always looked not the right dimensions, and they were too expensive anyway. You can never justify. But I thought to myself, there's no point getting involved because that's never going to match up to my idea of what I wanted to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There probably is a special monitor somewhere where you can make it exactly the right size and shape, but I couldn't see it anyway. But sorry, these smaller Pi ones. I had no idea that like bar top cabinets even existed until I'd heard about like what people were doing with them now, and I thought, did those things exist? I'd never seen one.
Sort of thing
Cool
I could
little
actually
things.
picture kicking around like at work or something in our office. You know, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just
Have
the
a
right
couple of
size.
them. Yeah, you could just have a couple of them in the corner of like the kitchen area where like the seating area where we have lunch and stuff. I could just picture a little desk on the side or something with a couple of these sitting at, and you could go over and play them at lunch. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's sorry, Vic, you were going to say?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, that's exactly the kind of thing. As a kind of like it's like a sort of centerpiece, really, for a bit of socialization, where you can kind of sit around and everybody can have a little bit of a go on it, and it's kind of fun, and you can play different games, and and of course, for the money, for £100 or whatever it is, that is just so low cost. And of course, you got the fun of building the thing. You know, it comes as a kit. You've got to make it all in. You make it just the way you want it, so it's good.
What are the materials out of interest?
Yeah, the materials. It looks like it's laser cut ABS, so plastic ABS that is all cut to shape. You get a screen with it. I don't think it's touch screen, and a special Pi-Cade panel that's got all the buttons in it, and the buttons are kind of like retro buttons and about that size, you know, so the big kind of buttons that you'd have on Missile Command or something like that.
With the little dips on the top.
Yeah, that's right, with the little dips on the top, and then the little red joystick, the little four-way joystick that sits there.
Yeah.
So, but it's just all in this miniature box, and then of course you load your emulators on it, and it's got some code for mapping the buttons correctly, and you're off.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I think the thing that interests me most is the setup on the Pi itself, like as to how user friendly that is now, how compatible, because that could be quite viable. I mean, you don't really want to. I mean, I know if you're making a proper arcade cabinet, you've got room to put a desktop PC in there.
Yeah.
But you don't really want to have to. You want something light, but then that feels like a waste of space because those cabinets are enormous. But then you've got this bar top option, which unfortunately means you lose out on the cabinet option. But I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't think many people. I mean, maybe in America you got more space, but I think over in Europe, most people can't just dedicate a corner of their house to a massive arcade machine, whereas a little bar top thing, you know, you can just put it away.
I have to put it in Bernie's playpen.
You could hide inside it.
That's right.
But no, that looks really cool, and I think the last thing I want to just quickly say is it's got the right 4:3 aspect ratio on the screen, which is another benefit which you struggle to find nowadays because most of the things you have nowadays are widescreen, big black bars on the sides, whereas this obviously comes with a 1024x768 I think screen or 800x600 screen. Either way, it's the right aspect ratio for some classic gaming goodness, so that's pretty cool.
So long as you don't want to play Darius. It's like 3 screens wide or something. Silly. It's like, how do we get people's attention and make them put 10p's into this thing? Make it a friggin' wide monitor for no reason at all, but hey, nobody else has got one.
Yeah, just looking at the picture we got there and the picture that you dug out there in the show notes, John. It's awesome, isn't it? Oh, I've got to go back to Pi Moroni and buy one. Oh no!
But if you want it with the screen, it's 180 quid. So that's it's quite a lot of money.
It's a bargain.
Whereas Lando says this deal's getting worse all the time. No, I don't mean it. 180 is still a steal for building your own little cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's groovy. So anyway, so let's slick on to what else we've got. And moving forward, we've got this link here for the Tingbot. Now this is on Kickstarter, isn't it?
It is, and this is something that actually my wife looked at first and pointed me in the direction of. And the idea is like, if I'll post the link and I'll keep talking about it because it's a good thing to see. But it's this little box which obviously has a Raspberry Pi sitting inside it with a screen, and I mean, I guess without the joystick, it's not a vastly different concept to the Pi-Cade. It's intended to be a different use case. But the idea is that you buy this box with a screen, and it's going to be about 50 quid. I think when it you can kickstart it now for 50 quid, and I guess it'll be about the same when it comes out. And it's a touchscreen with 4 little buttons on top. But I think it runs its own OS. So the idea is you can. It's meant to be simple. It's meant to be built as like a learning device, or a gadget for hackers, to mess around with. So they've written their own. They say their own OS, but I guess it's it's based on Raspbian with a few things on top. I doubt it's not really a whole OS. But you build this little device, little box with a couple of buttons on top and a touchscreen on the front. Then you can connect it to your PC and write your Python, hit save, and it gets beamed straight across to your little Tingbot, and then it runs. So you can it makes it easier, because I think the thing that they've kind of picked up on is that the Raspberry Pi came out as a way of teaching people programming, and it is a very good tool for that, but it's still, if you're, like a school, like a 15-year-old or something at school, and you're like, oh, what's this programming malarkey? You've got to learn Linux first, right? You pick this thing up and you plug it in, and for some people that's great, because they're the sort of people like us who just dig in and like, it's 20 quid, I can't break it, so whatever, if I break it, it doesn't matter, which is great. But it's still a bit of a barrier, because like the first thing you do is you spend an hour installing Raspbian, and then you're just hit with a terminal. And you're like, the cool thing about Commodore 64 back in the day was that the thing you were hit with was BASIC, like you turn it on and there it is, place the code straight away. That's pretty cool. Whereas nowadays you're hit with 5 or 10 seconds of daemons loading and services and all stuff going by. It instantly gets complicated, and then you spend a few hours installing packages and stuff, and then you're ready to go. So I think the idea of the Tingbot is you build this device, you plug it in, you turn it on, a screen will come up, kind of more like a phone, I guess, with like a bunch of apps on. And then you can be like, right, I'm going to write one. And they've written their own Python library. So, you can say, quite simply, create screen, put this graphic on it, go. And then you run it on the device and it appears. Like the app, quote unquote, which is probably just a Python script or collection of them, just starts running. So I think they're just trying to remove all the barriers. So literally, you plug it into your machine, you type 3 lines of code, and you get a red screen. And then you can go from there, because you've got to the bit where you're being creative and fun as quick as possible. And I think that's pretty cool because of that reason. And then you can start to very quickly, because it's just a Python script, and you don't have to worry about the setup of the device. You just plug the SD card in or whatever and turn it on, and off it goes. And it boots up, ready for you to start playing with, and you can start doing things like, you know what, I'm going to make a timer app to put in the kitchen. And people could do that pretty quick, I think, with this device. Whereas if you started off with just a regular Raspberry Pi, you could make a timer app, but it'll probably just be on the terminal, and it wouldn't look cool. You wouldn't want to show it off to your friends. Whereas if you've made a timer app with this, and it's like, it's a big red number on a green screen, and you can touch the screen to pick the number of minutes, hit go, off you go. And there's like 4 buttons on the top, which I think is cool as well, because that'll make it easier. Like if you don't want to get through all the hassle of trying to process inputs on the screen, you can just say, if button A is pushed, increment time up by 1 minute. So if you're just getting started, there's a very easy kind of input device for you to play with, and you're like, I can make an app with 4 buttons. And then you can start to get more advanced, and you can some of the examples they give is like, they've actually got it playing emulated games, even though it's like a 4-inch screen. But they've also got it as kind of like a guitar amplifier and stuff, where it's plugged in between the speaker and the guitar, and all sorts of home automation stuff, like controlling your lights with it and stuff. But yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, and the screen only runs like 25 FPS or something, so you probably wouldn't want to use it for highly multimedia device type things. But for just, again, it's 50 quid, and the idea is it's cheap, so you can just buy it with a Pi, and then if you've got like a 15-year-old kid, they can start playing, or even an adult who wants to learn programming without the boring bits.
Get them hooked on the cheaper stuff, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, it's just the easier stuff,
Yeah. Well, it's the things that once they realise they're serious, they're like, this Pi ain't doing it. I need a bigger Pi. I need the next thing.
But yeah, so I think it looks fun and pretty cool.
Yeah, and it looks like it's well on its way towards its target at the moment. I mean, it's going to need a little bit more help to get there, but it's not quite there yet. But and that's the key factor with Kickstarter, isn't it? But overall, I took a very quick flick through it, and and it does look really interesting, and it kind of looks, like you say, much more consumer grade, doesn't it? It's kind of more productized.
Yeah, it's good to see more people pushing that, because like that's what it takes, basically. I mean, there's people like us who quite enjoy like a bit of like mucking around. I mean, I probably set a few steps back from you guys because I don't know as much about programming, but I'm just interested enough to get me to tinker about a little bit, but nothing complicated. Like, I don't want too much of a challenge, just because like I've got like the time or the wherewithal to get over that hump. I think a lot of people who are at least interested in this kind of thing are probably sitting about where I am, or like where I was at like a younger age anyway. Like, keen to learn, but there's still like, I remember like mucking around with BASIC and being really pleased when I like had like a text adventure game going, like a multiple choice thing, and that was, I would just do those all the time because I was really at home.
But I mean, how cool is that? I mean, you could make like a text adventure game for this pretty easy, I think.
Yes.
And and you could use the little buttons on top to make your choices, maybe, or even touchscreen, I guess, if you just put the text on the screen. But
yeah,
I have no doubt that if you pick this up, you could make a text adventure, within however long, 10 hours of playing with it or something. And I think, don't get me wrong, I think you could do that with a Raspberry Pi as well. I just think it would take you 30 hours because your first 10 hours would be messing around with the OS, and then the next 10 hours would be messing around with like big piles of Python libraries, whereas this thing is like, this is what we have written for you. Here is a bunch of friendly Python libraries for doing things like rendering GIFs on the screen or something, and putting text on the screen. So I think they've just streamlined it, and made it more fun, which I think is one of the most important things about tinkering and playing. Is it should be fun.
Got to be rewards the whole time, basically, rather than like, oh, this isn't going anywhere.
So yeah, that's the Tingbot, and while it's currently on Kickstarter, I'm hoping you'll be listening to this in the future going, yeah, I just heard of that, and I can buy one online somewhere. So.
Yeah, that'd be really good. It does look really, really cool, for sure. All right.
There's a very mysterious title on the show notes next, and it just says Project X.
Yeah, okay. All right, so this was a little bit of fun that we actually had at work, and we got we have twice a year our outlying developer will come over to the office and spend a week with us, and the whole development team is there together in the same space. And what we try to do is we try to run a short cycle sprint just for that week to focus on doing something in particular. Now, we're a Wi-Fi company, as you know, so what we came up with, actually, Dan, who is our new apprentice, he was getting very excited about Raspberry Pi gadgets, and he found this little thermal printer called the Pipster, which is a thermal printer, and so we come up with this plan. We'd been talking about various project ideas of things that we'd like to build. Now, so we recently developed a brand new API that interfaces into the Spark system. What we wanted to be able to do is to see whether we could come up with a product and that we could use. So we had a week to do this. So what we did was we glued a Raspberry Pi together and a Pipster printer, and we used the GPIO pins to connect it to a big red button that said press me. And then what we did was we configured this thing as like a commodity device. So basically you walk in to one of our Wi-Fi hotspots where there's a Wi-Fi Spark wireless network, and you plug it in. And the first thing it does is it connects to the gateway, and it asks the gateway's API for a configuration for that particular customer. It then configures itself as a functioning voucher printer with just one button, and that's all it does. So what you do now is that a customer comes up and says, I'd like to get access to the Wi-Fi, please, and you press the red button. And what the box does then is it prints out, it talks backwards and forwards to the Spark system to create a voucher for the customer and to get the voucher details, and then it prints that out as a voucher with an ID, a password, and a QR code. And then what you do is you just take that voucher and you go beep with your phone at the QR code, and the phone immediately connects to the Spark gateway and authenticates and is put on the network. And it was really cool, and it worked. It worked for somebody else in the demo. For me, I was trying to show off and do it with my Ubuntu phone, and and we'd done it 3 or 4 times, and it had worked great. And in the live demo, my Ubuntu phone threw a fit and wouldn't take a picture of the QR code. So one of the other staff members, because we were doing, like, at the end of each sprint cycle, we do a sprint demo. So one of the staff members said, I've got a QR reader, I'll give it a go. And I thought, oh no, will it work? Like, you know. And so he flipped his phone out and went beep, and it just went bosh and put him straight on the network. And it was like, yeah, all right.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. So we had a lot of fun. We had a great deal of fun with Project X building that. And we're gonna do another iteration of this, I think, where we've now got it's like a plastic frame with a 7-inch touch screen in it, and same sort of idea. But what you do is that you choose how much wireless connectivity you want. You press the button, and it immediately puts a QR code on the screen, and then you just pop that with your mobile phone, and bang, you're connected. So no printing and no paper or anything else.
That's pretty cool. I like it. Very efficient.
So yeah, anyway, it was great fun, and lots of a bit of shell scripting, lots of API manipulation, some really cool Python action going on, and it was really kind of it gave the team as a group something really interesting to focus on and to get your head around and gel them together. So Project X, awesome time, really good fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. That's really cool. Another good use for a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
So there's one more piece, one more bullet point, the micro bit.
Yeah, the micro bit. So I was reading about this in Linux User and Developer magazine. So this is the BBC. Back in the day, the BBC obviously released the BBC Model A and Model B computers back when I was a kid, and they funded a program of supplying these computers to schools on a discounted budget or whatever. The microbit is a independent single board computer based on the kind of Raspberry Pi idea, but it's going to be distributed by the BBC. They're working in partnership, in collusion. I mean, sorry, partnership. They're working in partnership with Microsoft, and they're going to distribute these to it's something like 1 million school children or something like that. So the children at schools are each going to get one of these little devices, tiny little board, and you can program this with. There's a couple of tools. I think it's Microsoft Blocks is one tool, and then there's Microsoft Script language or something like this. So Blocks is a little bit like Scratch that the Raspberry Pi had, and the script is a little bit like a kind of JavaScripty type thing. Mm-hmm. Those tools are ready now, and then apparently it's going to be Python and some other scripting languages are going to be released for it a little bit later on. So that's the micro bit, and if you've got young children at primary school, I'm pretty sure it is primary school kids. They're going to be being distributed over the coming months, and the children will all get access to one and get hands on doing some coding.
I remember when I first came to primary school, I struggled to find a computer. I thought I was told they'd have a real computer in this school. Like, I didn't have one on my own, so I was like, "Oh, we're going to get to see the computer. And it'd be just like one thing tucked away in the corner that you get to use on like very select occasions. And you have to take turns with all these other bloody kids, and like it was disappointing to me at the time. And I think the whole time going through school, I've found trying to use the computer is incredibly restrictive, in fact. And now they're giving pies away to everybody. It's fantastic.
Yeah, they're just quantity, wasn't it? I mean, like, when I was at primary school, we had a Windows 3.1 machine, and I got to use it most because no one else knew how to set it up.
Yes.
I get called out a lesson sometimes to fix the printer and shit, you know.
Yeah, we better get a computer. We don't know how to use it. That guy there, he knows that. All right, he can do it.
Magic. So there's loads going on in this space, and we've just this evening, we've talked for about half an hour about what's going on with Raspberry Pi.
I got one more quick project I want to talk about. It would be like 30 seconds, and that was I saw on a website somewhere that someone had set up their Raspberry Pi with a 10-inch screen behind a picture frame. And what it did was every morning it would download a new picture from DeviantArt, and then just play it if you scroll down the show notes, there's a picture of it, and it's just a different piece of art every day based on what people are making online. So that's pretty cool.
Sounds risky.
Yeah, well, maybe they got the explicit filter turned off, you know.
Still risky.
yeah. There's a chance that you could be put off your breakfast some mornings, isn't there?
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't even have to be explicit. I've seen some stuff on it. I maybe just look at it and think, well, what am I looking at?
But I think it's cool. I think you can have it
during
the latest news or anything really. You can actually have it just statically changing once or twice a day. So that's pretty cool.
That is pretty good. It's kind of like an internet picture frame sort of thing.
Yeah. So that was the last thing I wanted to say about the Pi. So.
Yeah. Well, it kind of, there is just such a lot of creativity that's possible there, and there's an explosion of devices out there now. Raspberry Pi, Banana Pi, Beagle boards, Beagle bones, Arduinos. Let me see if I can get a little bit more esoteric. The new Mentor Opsys video FPGA controller, the Snickerdoodle, which I think is such a cool name, Snickerdoodle. These are all again, single board devices that you can program in some way. Some of them you program in a hardware way, or some of them software ways. Just tons and tons of stuff going on there.
NVIDIA's got the Jetson. Sorry.
The Jetson.
The Jetson, NVIDIA, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's not cheap. It's a more expensive one, but it's it's got like a couple of hundred processing cores on it, whatever I say.
So this is just going to grow, and you can see, can't you, that this coupled with the Internet of Things and that new kind of 6-low WLAN networking architecture, meshing networking architecture. This is going to explode in the makerspace and be really, really, really interesting. And I'm damn sure that we'll be back again on our At Random show in the future. And we've got to do Snickerdoodle at random, haven't we? Or Mentor Opsys at random. That'd be just weird. But, there we go. All right. So, well, of course, I've overrun. We always overrun because there is no schedule. It's a random schedule. But make sure you get in touch with us. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching this there. Go and visit our website at atrandom.org.uk. You can find all of our old shows and all of our information on there. Get in touch with us, write to us. You can join us in the chat show. You can touch base with us on Google Plus when we're doing the show live, or of course you can email us show@atrandom.org.uk. So as always, fellas, it's been absolutely awesome hanging out with you guys, geeking out and talking tech. And to you there out there watching and listening, do come back and check us out in the future. My name's Rick Timmis, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you ever so much for listening. I've been John Wordsworth.
I'm Jackson Matthews, and we are all about the pie.